Good morning. I decided to make a few videos of some of my earlier searches here in New Mexico just as a practice vehicle to make better videos for when I actually do go to Wyoming in my search area in May or June. I've seen some really bad YouTube videos lately from various searchers, and I need to practice here at home before I head up to Wyoming and actually want to spend time filming my search location that I would love to go find the treasure. Regardless where you're going to go and when you're going to go, everyone needs to prepare. And this is nothing new. There's been a lot of videos on safety and what you need to take with you whenever you go to a search. So depending on where you go and the time of year you go, that can make a difference on what kind of equipment you're going to take. This morning, Molly and I are going to go into the Jemez Mountains. My plan is to park at the Spence Hot Springs parking area, and then from there we will hike up to Spence Hot Springs. Now, there's a bridge across, I think it's the East Fork of the Jemez right there. There's a bridge across that, so that's not the problem area. It will be the trail or non-trail to actually get to the hot springs themselves. And because I don't know how icy and snowy it is there right now, I am going to pack my crampons. And these I can just slip over my hiking boots, and this definitely will give me some traction going up an icy trail. The other thing that I almost always have with me, regardless of where I go and time of year I go, are of course my trekking poles. Along with that, the essentials that I almost always take with me, and of course this is up to you, is a pair of gloves. Forrest did say that we should take gloves. I don't know if he was joking that we actually need these to brush pine needles or spider webs off the treasure chest, but I have already found that I wish I would have had gloves just in case I do want to pick up a slab of rock, the terry scant, or something to where gloves would definitely be appropriate. So we have the gloves, we'll throw those in the backpack. The other thing that I always like to have for me, and of course I've talked about this sort of on my videos, is toilet paper and a little shovel just in case. You never know. And sometimes if you hike with other people, they might need these supplies. Throw those in the backpack. The other thing, there again, probably most of you already carry, is a tiny little first aid kit. There's all sorts of goodies in here, and one of the other things I do carry in here is a little bottle of Iodine Tablets, just in case you run out of fresh water and you want to drink out of the creeks or the rivers or whatever. That should kill anything if you follow the instructions. Throw that in. Of course, it's always good to have your knives and your little Leatherman like tools, or whatever. Got the corkscrew here in case you're taking a bottle of wine and need to get the cork out, or maybe you just want to stab someone in the throat with that corkscrew. Whichever, good idea. Throw those in. Obviously a flashlight. I have several. And one of the things though that Desert File mentioned in his book or somewhere when he was living in the cave in the desert in California years ago, he talked about having a metal straw. The good thing about this is, especially anybody that's going to hike in New Mexico in the summertime into an area where if you get hurt and you have to spend a night or whatever and there's no water around, you actually can use this to suck water out of a crevice in a rock outcropping. You can also use it like even if you have a creek or a mud puddle or whatever and you need to drink water to live, you can get this down beyond all the scum and everything that's floating on the top, or like Desert talked about, you can get this down into water that would be in a crevice in the rock. So very important in my opinion, regardless of where you're going to go. Good thing to have, and obviously it's very small and doesn't weigh much. Throw that in the pack. Okay, so I'm taking Molly today. When I take Molly, I like to take her bib with me. This way I can put her bib on her, and if she is off leash and wanders around, it's easy to find her. The other thing is, even if Molly isn't with me, this is a good device just to have that I could put on if I get lost and I need to be seen from the air. So next we go to obviously water for me, backup source of water for Molly that I keep in the car, and then we have lunch. So one of the best things about going on my hunts, whether it's a hike for Fenn's Treasure or just out hiking, obviously food. So this morning I have to pack enough food for me and Molly. I do take some treats for her, but she definitely is always going to eat my food first. So this morning we're going to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, obviously the peanut butter. And for all you people who know Sasha, this is Sasha's jam that she makes every year. And I thank her for supplying me with this as she does other people. So this will be our high protein, high energy sandwich for today's trek. The Jemez Mountains are literally a hotbed of geothermic hot and warm waters. My first search up in the Battleship Rock area was in 2013, and then I actually posted a longer story about it on Dale's blog in March of 2014. As Molly and I make our way from the parking area up to the hot springs, I'm going to play a snippet from the Moby Dickens bookstore where Forrest talks about the clues being contiguous.
Did 9 clues appear after you wrote the poem?
They're contiguous. I knew where I wanted to hide the treasure chest, so it was easy for me to put one foot down and then step on it to get to the next foot. That's what I did.
Contiguous. I think contiguous might be the key word. What does it mean? Sharing an edge or a boundary? Touching? Or adjacent in time? Here Molly and I are crossing San Antonio Creek. We are going to walk down to the edge of this creek and touch the warm water. And this, in my opinion, is where the warm waters actually halt. As you make your way up to the hot springs, there are several warm water rivulets that trickle down the hillside. Spence Hot Springs is actually made up of 3 separate pools. An upper, larger pool which then cascades down into 2 smaller pools, hence waters. The most difficult thing about using Spence is getting up to the upper pool. You can either climb up over these rocks or you can take a treacherous path through these other boulders to get up into the pine trees. This is the path that Molly and I selected to do this time. Unfortunately, the water was murkier than normal, colder than normal, and no one was naked. Like I mentioned, I believe the 9 clues are contiguous. So I showed you where the warm waters halt at the edge of San Antonio Creek, and now we are taking it in the canyon down. Battleship Rock is about 1.5 miles past or downstream from Spence. This is where we are going to park below the home of Brown and put in. Once again, we have to cross San Antonio Creek to get over to Battleship Rock, and where we are going to change our directional path. Keeping with the contiguous clues, we walk past the bottom of Battleship Rock, through a camp or a picnic area, and now we are crossing Little Bonita Creek. Continuing with the poem, from there it's no place for the meet just means that you're off the trail. There is no trail. You're following Little Bonita Creek, which is the end is ever drawing nigh, and there will be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. Here we are arriving at Little Bonita Falls, which is the heavy loads and water high. Back to the poem. Next we needed to find the blaze. The top of this rock formation really glows when the sun hits it. one of the reasons I thought this really could be for special places when he talked about the special clearing with the waterfall when he was in Vietnam. When I brought the Japanese TV crew back here, we looked all over the side of this space. One of the guys even went up across the top of this trying to get to the waterfall from above. Unfortunately, he was never able to find a way to stand on top of the waterfall. No treasure found here, but on the way back, my favorite blaze in the Jemez Mountains is right here. I call it the Big Toe. As Molly and I drove home, I had questions. What about that blaze thing that looked like a foot? Was that the big toe that Forrest was referring to when he told searchers to dip their big toe in the water? Was he actually giving a hint to the blaze and not the warm water? I needed to ask Forrest. And the other thing, what about that explosion that Dale was talking about on the blog? I know there's a lot of media coming to Santa Fe this spring. There's French and German media doing TV shows and magazines. There's a reality TV show out of California putting together a group of searchers, and there's Expedition Unknown. Is one of these going to be the explosion that Forrest is going to tell us? I needed to find out from the man himself, so I made my way to Forrest's home. So Forrest, I just want to thank you for taking your time to chat with me today. I have a few questions I thought maybe you could answer. And you know, this winter weight is killing me, and a lot of us boots on the ground searchers are going crazy. What do you think?
A lot of those searchers are already crazy.
What did you mean when you told searchers to dip their big toe in the water? Is big toe the hint? Can you reveal what you meant?
I don't feel an obligation to reveal everything about that treasure.
Okay. You've heard about the lead searcher on the various blogs.
That's right.
Do you consider me the lead searcher? You know all the details to my new spot. What do you think?
It's a good thing.
A couple weeks ago, Dale announced that there's going to be a big explosion. Are you going to announce that I solved the poem and that the treasure hunt will end this year?
That's right. That's what it's all about.
Anything you want to whisper to me to help me out?
You asked too many questions.
Okay. I think that's a wrap.